My dad's retirement party turned into a crazy confession no one saw coming. Retirement parties are usually predictable. Heartfelt speeches, a slideshow of fond memories, a little nostalgia, and maybe some bad karaoke. My dad's, however, turned into a scene straight out of a soap opera. It was a night I'll never forget, and neither will anyone else who was there. This setup: my dad, Michael, had spent 35 years working as an engineer for the same company. He was well loved at work, the type of guy who always brought donuts to the office on Fridays and volunteered to mentor the new hires. So, when he announced his retirement, his colleagues insisted on throwing him a party. My mom and I helped organize it, pulling together a guest list that included his old college buddies, childhood friends, and extended family. The venue was a small banquet hall in town, decked out in blue and gold decorations, my dad's favorite colors. My mom had been unusually giddy the entire week, which I chalked up to excitement. She kept saying things like, "This is going to be a night to remember." I thought she meant because of the party planning. I was wrong. The party, the first part of the evening, went exactly as expected. People mingled, shared drinks, and swapped Mike's stories about his infamous dad jokes and occasional DIY disasters. Then came the speeches. First up was my dad's boss, who gave the usual glowing remarks about my dad's dedication and work ethic. Then my mom spoke, her tone affectionate and proud. "Mike has been not just a great husband and father," she said, looking over at me with a smile, "but also a wonderful partner in life's adventures." I should have noticed the slight tension in her voice then, but I didn't think much of it. Afterward, it was my dad's turn. He started his speech with his characteristic humor, poking fun at his own terrible golf game and reminiscing about his early days at the company. But then, halfway through, he stopped. He looked at my mom for what felt like a full minute before clearing his throat. "There's something I need to say," he began, his voice suddenly serious. The room quieted. "The confession. I've spent my life working hard and trying to do right by my family," he said. "But there's a part of me, a very important part, that I've been hiding." At this point, my mom's face went pale. I thought she was going to faint. "I'm gay," my dad said, his voice steady. You could have heard a pin drop. My first thought was that I had misheard him. My dad? Gay? He had been married to my mom for 33 years. They had what I'd always considered a happy, loving relationship. But the way my mom was staring at him told me this wasn't news to her. "I've known for a long time," he continued. "But I didn't want to hurt anyone, especially you, Diane," he said, looking at my mom. "I thought I could bury this part of myself forever. But as I approach this next phase of life, I realized I can't keep living a lie." The fallout. The room erupted into a mix of gasps, whispers, and stunned silence. My dad's best friend, Steve, looked like he was about to fall out of his chair. My mom finally spoke up, her voice trembling but surprisingly calm. "I've known since before we got married," she said, shocking everyone even further. "What?" She took a deep breath and continued. "Mike and I made a decision back then. We loved each other deeply, still do, but we agreed to build a life together for the sake of our family. And we've had a good life, haven't we?" My dad nodded, tears in his eyes. I felt like the ground had shifted under me. My parents had built their entire marriage on what was essentially an agreement, not the kind of romantic love I'd always assumed. Questions and answers. People started asking questions, some tactful, others not so much. "So, are you getting divorced?" someone blurted out. "No," my mom said firmly. "We're still family. This doesn't change that. But Mike deserves to live authentically now, and I support him in that." I pulled my dad aside later, trying to process everything. "Why now?" I asked. He sighed. "Retirement felt like the right time. I've done my duty as a husband and father, but I don't want to spend the rest of my life hiding. I want to find happiness on my terms." I couldn't argue with that, but it was a lot to take in. The aftermath. The party fizzled out not long after the confession. People didn't know how to react, and the festive mood was gone. But over the next few weeks, things began to settle. My parents decided to stay married for now, but live more independently. My dad started going to LGBTQ plus meetups, and my mom leaned on her friends for support. They're both happier than I've seen them in years, and oddly enough, their relationship seems stronger. As for me, I'm still adjusting. It's strange to rethink everything I thought I knew about my family. But I'm proud of my dad for being brave enough to come out, and I admire my mom for her grace and understanding. Life is messy, and people are complicated. But if there's one thing I've learned from this whole experience, it's that love can take many forms, and sometimes the truth really does set you free. Update: my dad's retirement party confession. Hi, everyone. It's been a few months since I posted about my dad's retirement party, where he came out as gay after 33 years of marriage to my mom. To say the aftermath has been a roller coaster would be an understatement. I wanted to share how things have unfolded since then because, honestly, it's been a journey none of us expected. My dad. Let's start with my dad. After the initial shock of his confession, he threw himself into discovering this new chapter of his life. He started attending an LGBTQ plus community group in our town and made a few friends there. He even joined a book club they run, which is funny because I've never seen him read anything other than instruction manuals and golf magazines. What surprised me most is how quickly he adapted. I asked him one day if he felt regret about not coming out sooner, and his response hit me hard. I don't regret my life with your mom or raising you, but I do regret not giving myself the freedom to be who I am earlier. Now, I finally feel like I'm living. Recently, he went on his first date with a man he met through his group. He was so nervous beforehand that he changed his outfit 3 times, pacing around like a teenager. My mom, of all people, was the one to calm him down. She told him, "Be yourself, Mike. That's enough." My mom, speaking of my mom, she's been a rock through all of this. If I thought my dad was brave for coming out, my mom has shown an equal amount of courage in how she's handled this huge shift in her life. After the party, a few of her friends questioned why she stayed married to my dad, especially knowing he was gay from the beginning. Her response was simple but powerful. Love isn't just about romance. It's about partnership, trust, and building a life together. Mike and I had that, and we still do. But now, we're figuring out what that looks like moving forward. She's been leaning into hobbies she'd set aside for years, like painting and gardening. She even joined a women's travel group and just got back from a weekend trip to a winery. She told me she's not interested in dating right now, but is open to the idea someday. For now, she's focused on rediscovering herself. And honestly, I've never seen her so vibrant. Me, I'll admit, it's taken me a while to process everything. At first, I felt like my entire understanding of my family was shattered. Growing up, my parents always seemed like the epitome of stability and love. Realizing their marriage was more of a partnership than a traditional romance forced me to rethink a lot of things, not just about them, but about relationships in general. But over time, I've come to see their story as one of incredible strength and resilience. My dad sacrificed a part of himself for the sake of his family, and my mom chose to love him unconditionally despite knowing the truth. That's not something everyone could do. On a personal level, I've grown closer to both of them in ways I didn't expect. My dad and I have had more honest conversations in the past few months than we ever did before. He told me about the struggle of living in the closet, the fear of rejection, and how much he worried about what his confession would do to our family. As for my mom, she's become my role model for how to handle life's curveballs with grace and dignity. We've started having weekly dinners, just the two of us, and those nights have become a space where we can talk openly about anything. The family dynamic. Our extended family's reactions have been mixed. Some have been incredibly supportive, while others are clearly uncomfortable and don't know how to act around my dad anymore. One aunt actually asked him if this was just a phase, which led to a very awkward silence. My dad handled it with his usual humor, saying, "Yes, 68-year phase. Must be some kind of record." For the most part, though, people have rallied around my parents. My dad's best friend, Steve, who was visibly stunned at the party, has since become one of his biggest supporters. He even joked about helping my dad set up a dating profile, which my dad vetoed immediately. What I've learned, looking back, I think the biggest takeaway from all of this is that families are constantly evolving. What I thought was a crisis at the time has turned into an opportunity for all of us to grow and understand each other better. My parents' marriage may not have been traditional, but it was built on love, trust, and mutual respect. Even as they redefined their relationship, those foundations remain. And while it's been a huge adjustment, I think we're all happier now that the truth is out. So if anyone out there is dealing with a similar situation, or even just struggling with the weight of a long-held secret, I hope this story shows that it's never too late to be honest, even when it's scary. Sometimes the hardest truths lead to the greatest transformations. Thanks for all the support and kind words from my original post. It's been a wild ride, but I'm grateful for the love and understanding that has come out of this experience.